Hey guys, welcome back. BDCKR here. We're back with our weekly recap of all things Injustice. This is for the week of October 26th, 2023. The current character challenge is Killer Frost Prime. That is a 1-week repeat. The required characters for that are Joker, Nightwing, and Superman, who you can get at silver, bronze, and gold respectively if you're looking at the lowest tier to get each of them. Her passive is Best Served Cold, which dampens all opponents' power generation by 50%. She's got 850 attack and 1,200 health and was last available the 29th of December 2022.
Right. So despite having lowish stats, I think it's not controversial to say that she's still relevant.
Yeah.
Power damping, very powerful strategy. Despite the presence of Tentu Totem, which is not affected, but it does impact Master's Death Card ability to give you the full bar power.
Yeah, it's never not useful.
Yeah. And I know that when I'm facing her, when she's the opponent, I don't like to see her with 2 bars of power because of the unblockable damage at the end of her special 2. Mm-hmm. Necron Scythe has made her more interesting. It boosts damage against not just stunned opponents, but frozen opponents too.
Yeah.
But it's lacking that just little bit because a lot of the damage happens before she freezes her opponent, as opposed to like the other example with the stunned opponents, right? With any of the back rolls, that there's a little piddling amount of damage when they stun right at the beginning, and it's back end loaded for the damage. And so there's 2 Killer Frost skins. This is clearly the best of the 2 Killer Frosts. She's better than Regime Killer Frost. Regime Killer Frost has heal dampening, and then power dampens only after special 1. And the reason why, I mean, if it's not obvious to you, everybody generates power. Every single one of your opponents generates power. And only very specific characters in specific gears, which you may or may not face in any given fight, will involve healing. So It's way more important to dampen power than it is to dampen healing.
For sure.
The last video that we did with her, when her challenge was around, we paired her with Earth 2 Solomon Grundy, because their combined power dampening could be enough to completely eliminate any opponent power generation.
Which is ridiculous.
It is. It's pretty spectacular, actually. And so a bit of the history of Killer Frost, back when she was first introduced, there was a glitch. The same way that when... Okay, so there's a history of certain characters being overpowered sometimes when they're introduced and then they have to be nerfed.
Yeah.
Arkham Origins Deathstroke used to get... And if the AI was controlling it, would get 200% on his special 1 every time.
Yeah.
So it's always unblockable. It would and Killer Frost, when she was first introduced in multiplayer, she would do super quick tag ins and tag outs, and it would make her really difficult to handle, which is wild. So all right, so now we get to the current video. The current video is an attempt to make her the main damage dealer, and so as you play her, I think you see a number of problems, and it just becomes way more obvious. Her attack stat is pretty low, which is why on this team she's promoted to Elite 8 instead of leaving her at Elite 7. Mm-hmm. Or, sometimes we'll even leave characters at Elite 5 if they're really high stats, like the Flashpoint team.
Yeah.
We have to bump up a bit because even bumped up, her attack stat is not very high. And because of power dampening, Rebirth Raven is a bad teammate. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about how I think as far as teams go, I think Hawkgirl is top tier because she's great as a teammate on almost any team. And Rebirth Raven is good on most teams as a secondary sort of specialist. Mm-hmm. And that combination is a great way to highlight almost any character except for Killer Frost.
Yeah.
So the point of being that Rebirth Raven's greatest strength is stealing power. But if we're making it harder for opponents to generate power, then it's less likely that Rebirth Raven is going to steal power. So that's why we've replaced her with Red Lantern Hal Jordan, who is there with Claw of Horus to shatter the opponent's gear because he's got power every time when he comes in. And like I said, Hawkgirl, third teammate. Anybody who's got Tentu Totem is automatically better when you can tag in and out with a very short cooldown clock.
Yeah.
All right. So some of the great things about Killer Frost. So the first hit of her special 2 is ranged. Meaning as long as the opponent isn't down on the ground, you don't need to worry about how far away they are. So what you might see in these fights is that, so if you do a swipe combo, as soon as you tag in, if you finish the swipe combo, you will knock them over. Mm-hmm. And that's not great if they have power, because you knock them over, you have to wait until they get up before you do your special 2, and that buys them the chance to do a special against you instead.
Mm-hmm.
So it's important. You'll see the strategy is you start the combo, you don't finish it, leave them standing, start your special too.
Yeah.
The other great thing about her is that her refractory period after doing special, so that time between finishing your special before you can do the next one is super short. She is incredibly agile and quick with her basics and with her specials. So it's easy to do another special as soon as the last one is finished, as long as you've got the power.
Mm-hmm.
So she works really great as your main damage dealer. But if you're going to do that, it's probably going to be worthwhile augmenting her attack so that she's more competitive against the higher level opponents.
Mm-hmm.
That's really where she fails, is that her stats are not great and they are loaded towards her health instead of her attack stat.
Mm-hmm. So there we go. Yeah, so we've had more than 3 years straight of a repeating challenge cycle, which means that we are able to, with some certainty, predict next week's challenge character as being Kandak Black Adam.
Right. And we'll get around to it. We're still keeping track. We are missing John Stewart Green Lantern, Arkham Origins Bane. Not missing them. They're in the cycle, but we just haven't done the video highlighting them as the star of the team yet, and we're going to get around to it.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe when their week comes. Yeah.
This week's multiplayer reward is Astro Force, which becomes the Astro Harness, and when it is maxed out on any special attack, it applies electric damage over time, dealing 10% of special damage for 5 seconds. On lethal hit, there's a 75% chance that's a lethal hit to you, the person holding the gear. There's a 75% chance to trigger Power Shield that will absorb damage up to 40% of max health. And its evolved ability gives you invulnerability for 5 seconds at the health thresholds, 100%, 50%, and 10%. So you start with 5 seconds of invulnerability, and then it gets triggered up to 2 more times, depending on whether or not you take damage that brings you below the threshold without knocking you all the way out.
Right.
We've had not quite 3 years of a consistent pattern for the multiplayer rewards, but we are still predicting that the Quake engine should be next week's.
Right. Did you mention, I can't remember now, did you mention that nothing is missing from the multiplayer?
Yeah, nothing's missing from the multiplayer rewards, but unfortunately 23 challenge characters are not available in the challenge reward cycle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Astro Harness, what can you say?
So good.
It is the platonic ideal of a defensive gear. It is the single best defensive tank gear. Mm-hmm. No controversy, bar none.
Yeah, the only reason why you might not like it is because it's annoying when you face it, because it is so effective at slowing you down.
Right. First 2 abilities are decent, not particularly remarkable. Right, 10% damage over time that takes 5 seconds to complete. It's okay. 75% chance to get an extra 40% health is okay too, because that's what effectively the shield does, right?
Yeah.
It acts like extra health. But 75% isn't, in my mind, reliable enough. And if you're hit with a hard enough special, it all gets taken in with the hit.
Yeah.
So it's basically like having a 40% health boost some of the time.
Yeah, and it's not like a revive, which like protects you from whatever hit knocked you out.
Because a revive will compartmentalize the damage that you're taking. So if somebody does a super on you that would have like knocked you and 3 others of you out, you still get to revive.
Yeah.
This one you don't. So the real key is that what you mentioned, that invulnerability for 5 seconds, 3 times. Tanks, in my mind, are meat shields that buy some time for a specialist to tag out and wait until they can tag back in. Mm-hmm. Which is critical if your team's damage output relies on Tantu Totem and you don't do enough damage to knock out your opponent and you don't get your power back. So often the best slot for your Astro Harness character is outside of first slot, so you have more control over when the first invulnerability triggers.
Yeah, because you don't want to burn the first one instantly every time.
Right, because it is particularly sweet, right? The opponent comes in, let's say you knock out their Killing Joke Joker.
Yeah.
And their opponent comes in with 3 bars of power. There's absolutely nothing sweeter. Well, maybe there is, but I feel like it's really satisfying when you get to tag in your Astro Harness person immediately there and let them eat the super, taking no damage because you've chosen when to use the invulnerability.
Yeah.
And they waste 3 bars of power, all gone.
Mm-hmm. So it's a great gear to have and a sometimes annoying gear to face. And that's, it's really good.
Right.
Yeah. In the store, we've got the Kandak Black Adam pack. That's for $24.99 Canadian. Canadian dollars is the price that we see in the store because that's where we're from. So that's the information that we're going to convey to you, the listening audience.
Mm-hmm.
It is our sort of second piece of evidence, other than the cycle that we're aware of, that Conduct Black Adam will be next week's challenge.
Right.
But it's $24.99, and it doesn't come with credits. So usually, most most of these packs are either $24.99, and they come with a character and 100,000 power credits, or they're $12.99, and they come with just a character, no credits. This one is $24.99, and it comes with just a character, no credits. So it's the worst deal.
There's a few of these trolling packs where they make the price and the value even worse.
Yeah, it's a big FU.
Yes.
And we also have the character bundle Darkseid War. That is also $24.99 Canadian, but that comes with both Jessica Cruz Green Lantern and Apocalypse Darkseid.
Right.
And I wouldn't call that a particularly good deal either. I think all of these packs are pretty overpriced, all things considered.
Right.
But, you compare it to a terrible deal, and psychologically it just makes it seem better in comparison.
So there was a question. I mean, usually we don't do Q&As in the recap, but there was a question about the cycle for packs, and they're all on a different cycle. So it's not like they're all on sort of their own cycle. And what brought that to mind is I was paying attention to the dates and looking up the dates and trying to find the notes on when this pack last came out.
Yeah.
And Google Docs is awful for finding the packs.
Yeah.
Because the terms all overlap. And so you get too many hits. And then when you find it, you're never sure if that's the most recent one. So I'm looking at all the dates of the character bundle Darkseid War. This thing is on a 5-month cycle.
Oh.
It is
good to know.
It is literally like it's as close to a 5-month cycle as you can get, considering the packs come out on a Thursday, right? So sometimes it'll be 4 weeks, sometimes it'll be because a month is not exactly 4 weeks, right? It's like 4 and a third weeks.
4.33, yeah.
Right. So sometimes it'll be, it's like a menstrual cycle. Sometimes it's a little bit on, sometimes it's a little bit off, but it's not the exact same day of every month. You're right.
Yeah.
So 5 months. So that's interesting.
There's a lot of things that are also approximate. But I mean, I guess menstrual cycle is as good of an example as anything else.
Yeah, because it's locked into our idea of what a month should be, but it's actually its own thing. So that even if you think it should be on the same day of each month, it doesn't actually come that way unless you're on a 30.5-day cycle or something, right? Yeah. It just doesn't. Yeah.
Anyways, back to Injustice. The Arkham Asylum.
Hey, it's all Injustice, man.
Is here for its second week.
Yeah.
And then we've got a lot of packs that have been around for long enough that we're not going to mention them. Anyways.
Right.
Phantom Zone is back for 2 more weeks. Mm-hmm. So that's good. Get your Phantom Zones in. We have double XP for the weekend, and
then something like it's
a little bit
weekend
after.
And then a few more days. So I feel like it's got to be for Halloween. It's got to be a Halloween thing.
Yeah. And Fight 62 is still broken. Last weekend's breakthrough was the Joker, Nightwing, and Darkseid. So this weekend's should be Zod, Aquaman, and Shazam. And we have a link in the description to a thread from Devlin16 with the complete breakthrough cycle for you to check out yourself.
Right. So as far as current glitches go, we do go into more detail every time something significant changes, which did not happen this week. However, even if nothing changes, we still do a more detailed review once a month, the first week of every month. Most recently, that was our recap from October the 5th.
Yeah.
And you can also see a video tutorial for every working glitch in our playlist, Current Working Glitches, linked in the description of this video and in the eye in the top right corner. The one thing worth mentioning is that the challenge reset glitch has been confirmed to be working on this week's Killer Frost challenge.
So there we go. To finish up, we'd like to give a huge thank you to all of our supporters on Patreon. That's Michael Devries, Irvin, Ruiz, and Hoshi127 on the credited level, and then all the names you see scrolling past now who supported at some point during the pandemic. Thank you so much for your support, and thanks so much to all of you for watching. We'll see you next time. Komoda!